The biggest story in the world is halfway a world away. It's in Beijing. I read from the Financial Times. Xi Jinping hails, quote, unstoppable China at a landmark military parade. Beijing sends a peace or war warning, while Trump accuses leaders of conspiring against the U.S., published early this morning. Xi Jinping has capped a week of frenetic diplomacy by presiding over one of China's biggest military parades, projecting his nation's growing power in a show of solidarity with fellow strongman Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. A procession of China's newest tanks, drones, and missiles rolled past Tiananmen Square on Wednesday to mark the 80th anniversary of the Second World War victory over Japan. The People's Liberation Army showed off its latest weapons, including hypersonic missiles, with Xi hailing troops as a heroic force that should develop into a world-class military, implying a full equality with the U.S. armed forces. The Chinese president said the PLA would, quote, resolutely safeguard national sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity. That's code for Beijing's goal of gaining control over Taiwan. The great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is unstoppable, Xi added. The occasion marked the first time that the Chinese, Russian, and North Korean leaders had gathered in the same place. The spectacle of Xi, Putin, and Kim, alongside of more than 20 other national leaders reviewing the march by the world's largest military in terms of personnel numbers, was designed to impress China's 1.4 billion people while warning off potential adversaries, including the U.S., Europe, and Japan. In his speech, Xi cast China as a force for world peace and opposing hegemonism. Right. Look, I'm carrying on a long series with Dr. Larry Arnn for the Hillsdale Dialogues. It is based on this book, The Gathering Storm, which is the first volume in Winston Churchill's 6-volume history of World War II. Churchill's not in power from 1929 to 1939. He has no job. He's just a backbencher in Parliament. But he warned and he warned and he warned and he warned. Look what Germany is doing. Look what Hitler is saying. And everyone's got to pay attention to what China is doing and what China is saying. And it's very ominous. And we are screwed up. Now, there's a new generation of primes that are rising. Palantir and Anduril and a whole bunch of others. They're rising and they're replacing or displacing or improving the primes, Boeing and Lockheed and General Dynamics. But we need a rebuild, and we need it fast. We need our hypersonics to keep pace. I think they have. I think we got a lot of secrets up our sleeves as well that the Chi-Coms don't know about. But this is not normal. This is our payoff for the holiday from history. And the alliance of tyrants is strong and getting stronger. And Putin is hanging on for dear life with the help of Xi. Kim Jong-un is only an irritant. And Donald Trump stopped them from getting a fourth member in their club when he destroyed Tehran's nuclear program. But we have to be aware of what is going on there. Now, the good news is Donald Trump is aware of what is going on there. Earlier today, he tweeted, or he posted at True Social, and I reposted it at this. The big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States gave to China in order to help secure its freedom, in caps, from a very unfriendly foreign invader. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America. President Donald J. Trump. Well said, Mr. President. Now, ask your party to double down on the increase of $158 billion that they pushed through for defense last year. Pay no attention to the isolationists. Pay no attention to the people who want to disarm. Pay attention to the serious people in your cabinet like Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, by the way, got a question today about whether or not it was appropriate for America to blow up drug runners on speedboats like we did yesterday in the Caribbean. This is what he said, cut number 21. It's faulting on our loading. Then let's go to John Thune, the majority leader on the Senate floor earlier today, talking about if the Democrats don't change when it comes to confirming executive branch nominees, especially for places like defense and the CIA and other places like that. Here's what he had to say, the majority leader, cut one.
President Trump won an election. The American people voted for him, and they expect him to be able to populate his administration with the people that he wants to serve in many of these positions. But if Democrats continue to obstruct, if they continue to drag out confirmation of every single one of the nominations of a duly elected president, if they continue to slow the Senate's business to such a drastic degree, then we're going to have to take steps to get this process back on a reasonable footing. This is not sustainable, Mr. President. You can't run a government this way. It's never been done before, ever. Ever.
So what he needs to do is the nuclear option. Bring forward a rules change. And I don't know what the specifics of the rule change is going to be. It's going to have to be following the Reid precedent, where there's a point of order, the parliamentarian rules, and the President of the Senate asks for a vote to confirm or overrule the ruling of the parliamentarian. It will be overruled, and the rule will change. It's the way that Reid blew up the filibuster for judicial nominees. Mitch McConnell followed the Reid precedent when he blew up the filibuster for Supreme Court nominees. So they all are subject to simple majority votes, which is, as the Constitution has it, the Senate shall advise and consent. Doesn't mean they have to consent, they shall vote, is what it implies. And the leader will be more than justified in bringing the nuclear option to the table. And I think he ought to bring it anyway. I don't think the Democrats can make up for lost time. They ought to change it. And by the way, I'm prepared to live with it for Democrats as well. If they get a nominee out of committee, they ought to get a vote. The whole hold and the whole blue slip and all this unwritten rule, the Senate lore, nonsense, and it ought to go away. Donald Trump gave a extended series of remarks when the president of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, joined him today in the Oval Office. Cut number 7, talking about China first.
Sir, on Russia and China, sir, can we ask you about, we saw a dramatic picture where we saw the leaders of Russia and North Korea and China together, the first time the leaders of those three countries have been together in this sort of show of solidarity. You said that they're conspiring against the United States. What do you think they're conspiring to do? And given this, is it reason why you should slap or would consider slapping secondary sanctions on Russia if they're conspiring against the U.S. now?
Well, I've already done that with regard to India, and we're doing it with regard to other things. And I put out a truth last night. You saw that. And I was the one that brought it up. I said they're only doing this to really they're looking to, when they did what they did, I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was very, very impressive. But I understood the reason they were doing it, and they were hoping I was watching, and I was watching. My relationship with all of them is very good. We're going to find out how good it is over the next week or two. I think that we helped China very much, as you know, when they talk about freedom. And I don't believe that, and maybe I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe that America, that the United States was acknowledged for helping China to get to gain its freedom. But perhaps that was just that was a sleight of hand. I mean, I was very surprised. I watched the speech last night. President Xi's a friend of mine, but I thought that the United States should have been mentioned last night during that speech because we helped China very, very much.
I think this might be why the markets acted today as they are acting at this hour, and there's 45 minutes to the close. This market report is brought to you by AmericanFederal.com, 1-800-221-7694, 1-800-221-7694. The Dow's down 0.55%, the S&P is down 0.659%, and the NASDAQ is down more than a point, 1.15%. Gold has skyrocketed. It's at $3,628 an ounce. $3,628 an ounce. Now, Nick Grovich called this. Nick runs AmericanFederal.com. If you want to talk to someone about maybe getting on that train, call Nick, 800-221-7694. He made a seven-figure deal with a friend when gold was at $2,000 an ounce, and it made him queasy in the stomach. Turned out to be the best deal he's ever done. 1-800-221-7694. 1-800-221-7694. $3,628 an ounce. Wow. Markets are worried about the world. $3,628 an ounce. Call Nick Grovich at 1-800-221-7694. I'm Hugh Hewitt, and ashamed to be Scots of the Scots descent today because Scotland said no public funding for defense companies that supply arms to Israel, and their first minister said there will be immediate recognition of a Palestinian state and supports freezing trade with Israel. I'm joined by Dr. Michael Oren, formerly Israel's ambassador to the United States. Dr. Oren, this is not unusual, but Scotland isn't really a country. It's a region. Are you used to regions declaring their antipathy for Israel?
I'm used to everything from Ivy League universities to teachers' unions declaring their antipathy to Israel. I think more seriously what happened with Belgium yesterday. Belgium yesterday said it was going to sanction Israel. This is the first Western state to say openly it was going to sanction Israel. And today on my social media, I called for Israel to evict the Belgian ambassador from this country, that Belgium cannot engage in an act of open hostility against this country with impunity. There has to be a very stern response.
I am in agreement with you. I listened to Aviv Reddy Gore give a speech in Norway, and he said, where does Europe get off? There aren't any Jews here for a reason relative to the rest of the world. It's because Europe did nothing when Hitler came to power. I don't know where they get off, but what do you think the end game is here? I think Israel's got to finish this war and do so quickly.
You know, my father fought in Belgium during World War II in the Battle of the Bulge. He said the Belgians were the worst. They were the worst collaborators with the Nazis. And the Belgian, every brick in Brussels and any building that's older than, 120 years old was built with the blood of African slaves. Where Belgium gets off, dictating or sort of pontificating to any other country is what they call, I guess they call it in Scottish chutzpah. And extraordinary. Kick them out. It's been my experience with the Belgians, not just the Belgians, that when the worst thing you can do to them is to deny them entry to this country, because if they can't deal with the Israeli-Palestinian issue, then they have to deal with European issues, and they don't want to do that because they can't. And so I think we should punish them, and we should set an example with Belgium. You're gone.
I hope you do.
Good luck.
And you're right to remind people about the Belgian Congo. You're very right to remind people about the Belgian Congo. Very few colonies in the history of the world were run with more indifference to human life and suffering than Belgium ran the Congo. Well said. Now, what about the 6-hour cabinet meeting where you've got the chief of staff of the Israeli army yelling at the prime minister? Is that leaked for public consumption, or is that really going on?
Oh, I think the answer to that is yes. The answer is that is yes. I have deep feelings about this, and I'm going to share with you. And I know that you're, as a person who has studied American history, knows that Abe Lincoln during the Civil War had to fire how many commander-in-chiefs of the Army of the Potomac?
5.
3 or 4?
Yeah.
5.
5 to get to Grant. Grant was number 6.
Who could fight? Who was willing to fight? And the prime minister used to often share with me an opinion that he had that armies generally do not like to fight. Interestingly enough, armies are the least apt to want to actually engage in combat. Maybe it's too risky. And I think that the prime minister has to find a chief of staff who's willing to fight. And what can we do right now? I've just come back from a long trip to the States, to South America, as well as talking to young people about the situation in Gaza. So many people say to me, why don't we just end the war and get all the hostages back? Well, that sounds great. But the fact of the matter is, Hamas is not going to give us all the hostages back. Hamas is evil, but it's not stupid. And knows it's going to give us we give the last hostage back, we're going to go in there and kill them. They're not going to do that. They're always going to keep a couple of hostages. And if Israel pulls out of Gaza, then Hamas wins. And Hamas will engage in another October 7th, because that's what they said. They'll do it 10,000 times till Israel is destroyed. And I said to these young people in North and South America, okay, are you willing to go live with your children on the Gaza border in those situations? And nobody said yes. Nobody said yes. There is no quick fix to this, none whatsoever. And now we have President Trump saying, get on with it, finish it. I will back you and finish it. And so another major consideration we have is maintaining our good relationship with this president, and certainly that's a strategic value for the state of Israel. None of this is easy. It's all cruel. But at the end of the day, you need a chief of staff who's willing to fight.
So do you think Zamir will simply get it done now that he's had his say and put it on the record that he thinks it's going to be a costly mission? And it's going to be 900 soldiers have died since 10/7. I believe 500 in Gaza since the war began and entered into Gaza. It will not be easy for Israel's defense forces.
It'll be brutal. No army in history, Hugh, has ever faced remotely the challenges that the IDF faces in Gaza. You know, you remember Mosul, you remember Fallujah, where American forces faced maybe 5 to 10,000 terrorists with the cities that were pretty much abandoned and no tunnels underneath. We're talking about 2 million people crammed into this small space, densely built up with 500 miles of tunnels beneath them, and 20 to 30,000 fighters, terrorists fighting them. I mean, there's been nothing like this in all of recorded history, not just modern history. Imagine the Battle of Berlin, where the Nazis had 500 kilometers of tunnels beneath Berlin. Be a little bloodier, I imagine. So, you know, it's going to be absolutely brutal, and the danger to the hostages is extreme. We know that. We know that. I'm at loss to think of any other conclusion, any other way out. Because if you reach an interim agreement for a ceasefire for 2 months, well, what happens? You get 8 hostages back. Okay, that puts the state of Israel in a situation where it has to choose which hostages get free and which hostages don't get free. Kind of a selection. And at the end of 2 months, Hamas is strengthened. It gets 1,000 fighters, guerrillas, or terrorists out of Israeli jails, and reestablishes itself and reestablishes its money trail through the UN distribution of aid. And you're back in exactly the same spot in 2 months, but in a worse situation. So I don't see any rational, reasonable way out of this other than to proceed.
So, Michael, the frustration I have is I don't read Hebrew. I can't read Israeli media. I don't know if the army's actually doing it. They say they're maneuvering in the suburbs of Gaza City. What's that mean?
It means they're proceeding very, very cautiously, and I understand that. Yes, 900 Israeli soldiers killed, and we know. And then, you know, we get the situation where the army has concluded that since there's basically a tunnel out of every building, we have to destroy those buildings. And when we destroy the buildings, the world accuses us of war crimes. No matter how we proceed, there's dangers and abysses and whatnot, really. It's all nightmarish. At the end of the day, we have no choice.
Are the Gazans leaving Gaza City as any rational person would do?
Not as fast as I think the Israeli military would like. There's a report today that said about 10,000 had left, but that leaves many tens of thousands still in the battle areas.
Well,
and Hamas will do its utmost to prevent those civilians from leaving, keep in mind. Hamas has every interest in keeping those civilians within the combat zones.
And the last question, Michael, we're out of time. How long do you anticipate the battle for Gaza City will take?
Well, President Trump has said 2 to 3 weeks. And I think I've said in this program before that in 1967, Israel conquered Gaza in about a day and a half. In 1956, it conquered Gaza in about a day. It's all a matter of, we have the troops, we have the firepower. The question is the civilians who will be caught between us and Hamas, and the hostages, That's all the difference here. And you cannot gauge, you can't in any way judge the success of the Israeli army or the rapid advance of the Israeli army without taking those factors into consideration.
Ambassador Michael Oren, as always, thank you for joining me. You do yeoman's work in explaining the case for the Israeli offensive all across every major media outlet I've seen, and I'm sure every media outlet in Israel. Thank you, Dr. Oren. One of our great sponsors on the Hugh Hewitt Show is Consumer Cellular, and I want you to consider making the switch today. 800-411-4454. That's 1-800-441-4454. 1-800-411-4454. Now I have to say it 3 times. 800-411-4454. 800-411-4454. Now I say it again and again and again because you can have savings without sacrifice. You can also get an extra $25 off your first 5 months, $5 each month for 5 months when you use the code HUGH25. That's not really the reason to switch. That's just a little incentive to move now. The reason to switch is that Big Cellular has oversold you. No matter what your data needs, get your phone bill out and have it in hand when you call 800-411-4454. Or you go to consumercellular.com/Hugh. And remember the code Hugh25. Because you're going to find out you can save a lot of money and not sacrifice any kind of service at all. Keep your phone, keep your number, keep your data, keep it all, or change, get new stuff. But realize you're not trapped. You can get out. What you're going to find out when you get your phone bill out and then you talk to a consumer cellular rep is that you're wasting a lot of money. Even if you're an unlimited data person, you want the security blanket of unlimited data. Consumer cellular, if you're 50 years and older, 50 and older, they will give you 2 lines with unlimited data on each of it for $60 a month. That is better than any deal out there long term. All right, $60 a month for 2 lines, unlimited data, and you still get the $25 off in $5 increments over 5 months if you use the code Hugh25. Don't get left behind. Get your phone bill out and call 800-411-4454. Tell them Hugh sent you. Let me also tell you that with the market going this way, I haven't looked at the 10-year Treasury, but I'll bet it's down around 4.2 because the market's so funny. I'll look it up right now. AndrewandTodd.com, AndrewandTodd.com, 888-888-1172, 888-888-1172. Yep, 4.22%. These are the best rates in 2025, whether a 30-year or 15-year, an ARM, whether you're refinancing, whether you're buying for the first time, whether you need a home equity line of credit, whatever is your loan need, your best bank is your own home if you have equity in it. And if you're trying to buy a house, you can't really wait. 4.22 is already priced in, 1 Fed cut, I think. It'll be 3-4 months before another one comes along, and then they'll go down a little bit. Here's what Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avakian will do. Remember, they're lenders. They were Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They will refi you as soon as it makes sense to do so. So if rates travel the long slide down like they did during the first Trump term, then you'll refinance a couple of times. It will be easy with AndrewandTodd.com. I've known Andrew Del Rey for 25 years, Todd Avakian for half that time. Wonderful people have helped thousands and thousands of my listeners and viewers. So please call 888-888-1172, 888-888-1172. Do your business with AndrewandTodd.com. Relief factor. I rolled my 7 6s. I got it done today. 7 10Ks in a row. Now, I was walking briskly today. I was not running. But I got my 6.2 miles in. And the reason I feel great is because of relief factor, which I'm about to take. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you can see me do it. There it is. And you know what? That's all it is. That's how easy it is to swallow. That's how easy it is to open and to swallow because they make the pills in such a way that it's very easy to swallow. What are they? Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, omega. What do? They help your body's natural anti-inflammatory system stay strong, stay healthy, and react. So when I was out there today, going not fast, I wasn't trundling, I wasn't doing anything, I was probably doing 15-minute miles, I'm fine. That's 7 days in a row, 6 miles. I haven't done that in a long time. Why did I do it? Because I hadn't done it in a long time. Because we had family and people all summer long. It was great fun, but it screwed up the exercise regime. So I decided, okay, this is the week I'm really going to dedicate to getting back into moving pretty good. Want to get the trundle speed down to 12 minutes a mile again. And you got to do off days, you got to walk. On days, you got to trundle. And that means more miles and you go faster after a while. Tomorrow's a rest day. Tomorrow I don't do anything. Tonight I do Hannity, so I'm sleeping in tomorrow. So I'm telling you right now, relief factor works. It really does work. I persuaded even Carl the Skeptical. Carl the Skeptical has not tried relief factor. He's bugged me about it for years, and he said he's going to try it. So I hope he does, because Carl's old. He's older than I am. He's older than Dwayne. He's older than dirt. And so he's going to feel some aches and pains when he mows the lawn with his riding mower. And he does have a riding mower, which I don't really think counts as mowing the lawn. But it'll work for Carl. It'll work for you. It works for everyone. Relief Factor. Call 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief, 1-800-4RELIEF, or go to their website, find that starter pack at $19.95, less than $1 a day, at relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Mary Catherine Ham joins me. Follow her on X at MK Hammer. She is the host of 2 podcasts, of course, Getting Hammered with Vic Mattis and Normally. Mary Catherine, I want to go big in international affairs with you today. Yesterday, China held a parade, biggest military parade I've ever seen in my lifetime. They have hypersonic missiles on trucks. They've got lots of lasers. They've got all sorts of stuff. And President Trump did not respond nicely to it. He thinks they're conspiring against us because Putin and Kim Jong-un are there. What do you think of that parade and what Xi is doing?
Yeah, look, I've been worried for quite some time about China. I am by no means an expert, but just to look at two, real powers and think who's going to have the reins moving forward is something we've been thinking about for a while. I really appreciated people in Congress who have kept their eye on that ball. And this, looks like a country that's gearing up to try to be the world power, the world superpower. I'm glad that Trump is a person who's sort of unapologetic about American power, because that's half of what gets you to being a superpower, frankly. If you are Joe Biden and you're apologizing for us all the time and you are not interested in exerting power, then you can't be a superpower, even if you're powerful, even if you have the best military in the world. So I appreciate that about him. I liked the tone of that message that he sent out, the Truth Social, I believe it was yesterday, about giving his regards to all those folks who he believes are conspiring against him. But it's not a great feeling to see it.
No, it's a great jab, though. He pointed out that China, very subtly, China didn't beat Japan. The United States beat Japan,
Right.
and Russia didn't beat Japan, and North Korea certainly didn't beat Japan. The three tyrants who were there had nothing to do with beating Imperial Japan. That was on the United States and a little bit on Great Britain and the Australians.
Right.
But that was us, and I like that message. But we haven't got the Navy we had then. Do you think the country is ready for another Cold War?
I think we're readier than we were several years ago, I would say. The vibe shift certainly is one toward valuing American values, valuing what we hold dear and what is important to the world, valuing freedom, not apologizing to those who have the opposite values. So I think that puts us on better footing. But frankly, look, I do think one of the issues over the past 20 years is that we have, with good reason, a war-weary nation, right? A lot of warriors who went off and we, gave blood and treasure to, unfortunately, battlefields that have now been relinquished in Iraq and Afghanistan for the most part by Democratic presidents on political timelines after much blood was spilled there. And people are a little they're discouraged, they're demoralized by that. And so obviously this would be a Cold War. This is different, but I think having leaders who can inspire is part of the way you come back from that.
One of the things I like is that having Alex Karp running Palantir and Palmer Luckey running Anduril, these are not nameless, faceless board members of the big
Right.
four defense contractors. They're entrepreneurs of weaponry. I like that. I think America ought to be investing in that.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. And I actually kind of like the age of the outspoken entrepreneurial tech CEO. I kind of like to see what we're working with. I kind of like to see them brag about what they're bringing to the table, compete with each other, position. Now, some of that can get into some cronyism, obviously, but I'd rather cronyism in public than cronyism with the nameless, faceless defense contractors. So, and I think it gives people an understanding of where they're coming from and what kind of work they do and who we're working with.
Now, I'm going to switch over to Israel. Today, my beloved Scotland announced sanctions against Israel, and they won't sell any military parts to it, and they want to restrict trade. Yesterday, Belgium called for sanction on Israel, and Michael Oren was just on saying we ought to expel the Belgian ambassador. I think Israel has no choice but to go into Gaza City hard and as long as it takes to clear the city and destroy the tunnels. What do you think, Mary Catherine?
Look, I think from day one, and obviously you're getting hammered listener, so not that we had any super special insight, but Vic and I were both like, what is the next day, right? Because it is indisputable that Israel had to do what they did and try to drive Hamas out and try to defeat them entirely and try to get everyone back and try to destroy the tunnels and all the infrastructure. And then what happens? Because you cannot live a life as a free country, as Israel is an independent country, with no buffer on your border, right? And if you can't guarantee that border is your border, just like they couldn't in the north for a while there, you have all your citizens shuttled into the middle of the country, and you're just relinquishing that ground without a war almost, right? And so you can't live like that. So they have to have some sort of resolution, which is going to require a buffer zone that is occupied by Israel, that is manned, that is a cushion between its own free citizens and anything remaining in Gaza that wants to attack them. And it's probably going to require more work and more war in Gaza before it's done.
Do you expect anything to be left of Gaza City? I think it's going to look like Berlin 1945 when they're done. And I don't know how to avoid that because of the way Hamas has fought.
Well, yeah, because the way to avoid it would be to surrender and give up the hostages. That would have been the way to do it from day one. And again, it's not some remote land that you can just walk away from. It is a very close land threatening your citizens because the citizens that reside there, those that aren't under the thumb of Hamas and tortured by them, are in agreement with them, right? So when you destroy Hamas, it doesn't necessarily mean that all those folks are done as well, right? They may have their own lone wolf plan. So it's just, there has to be monitoring, there has to be security, and there has to be a real defeat before even that comes to be.
Realism from Mary Catherine Ham. I love it. Thank you, Mary Catherine Ham. Is any update on getting hammered?
No, but I'll give you one offline.
Okay. Oh, good. I'll stay around. Find out offline.
We do need to do
Don't
one.
go anywhere.
You're right. I need to do a quarterly one. We'll get that done for you, Hugh.
Okay, I do need my quarterly fix, and the fetching Mrs. Hewitt more than anything. By the way,
I know.
don't go
Tell
see
Mrs.
the movie
Hewitt.
The Rose. Don't go see
Okay.
the movie The Rose. All right, that's
Okay.
my give back to you in exchange for a quarterly. We left halfway through it, and it might be the kind of movie you might sneak cajole Steve into going with you, because I was cajoled into going to it, and It was a big mistake. I want to talk to you about WebRoot, prompted by a story I got from Canton, Ohio. Now, Canton, Ohio is the Canton-Akron area. It's not Youngstown, Warren, but you can throw a stone there. So it's my back of the woods, Canton McKinley Bulldogs, Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's, Warren JFK, Warren Harding, Canton McKinley, and Niles McKinley. I'm stunned by this a little bit, but I shouldn't be. Canton, Ohio. This is where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is. 8 people have been indicted by a federal grand jury on charges related to immigration violations and identity theft. Now, these individuals were located at a Canton manufacturing facility. 4 were previously removed from the U.S. but were found in Ohio without the consent of the Attorney General or the Secretary for Homeland Security. Miguel Alvarez, 46, of Guatemala, Emilio Perez of Guatemala, Justo Calles of El Salvador, Domingo Calle Herrera of Guatemala, Juan de Leon Hernandez of Guatemala, Pedro Hernandez, 21, of Guatemala, Diego Perez Arjanez of Guatemala, Victor Ramos Santos of Guatemala. All of them are charged, all of them, with aggravated identity theft. Now, why would illegals in the country steal an identity? Well, in order to work in the country, in order to try and live a normal life in the country. They're all claiming Social Security. They're using false claims of U.S. citizenship to engage unlawfully in employment. These are all federal crimes, but they have to steal identities. All right, so there's a need. If you let 20 million people in and they want to stay, they got to steal 20 million identities. That's why you need WebRoot. WebRoot.com/Hewitt. WebRoot.com/Hewitt. They offer you 2 different packages. You can get WebRoot Total Protection, or you can opt for WebRoot Essentials. 50% off if you use my name, WebRoot.com/Hewitt. Because an identity is stolen every 1 to 2 seconds in the United States, WebRoot provides you with a firewall, a network monitor, a password manager, a system optimizer, identity protection with advanced dark web monitoring and rapid credit alerts, up to $1 million in reimbursement for stolen funds. You get a VPN. You get identity protection on up to 10 devices, unlimited cloud backup, and restoration for your PC and Mac when they're broken into. Remember WebRoot. Please also remember the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC.org/U, ALEC.org/U, to find out what's going on in the states. That's good news. Every day there's good news in the United States. West Virginia recently passed 5 new election laws, require U.S. citizenship for voting. show voter ID, keep the voter rolls current by flagging voters who have missed 2 years. They have banned ranked choice voting. Hurrah. And they require that municipal elections be held the same day as statewide primaries or general elections. If you want to know what's going on in the states like West Virginia, so you might ask your local state legislator to follow along, go to alec.org/Hugh. You'll get the State of the States newsletter absolutely free. That's alec.org/Hugh, alec.org/Hugh. Joined by John Podhoretz to open this hour. John is the editor of Commentary Magazine. They're having their big Commentary annual roast up in New York City. What day is it on, John?
October 19th. Go to go to commentary.org/roast for more.
You know, I'm going to get there next year. I think I'm going to, because it sounds like it's a lot of fun. I think I'm going to do that next year. John, Michael Oren was on last hour and told me that the Belgian government had decided to sanction Israel. His response and his advice to the prime minister is to expel the Belgian ambassador to Israel. I agree with that. Today, Scotland, which is sort of a region, it's not really a country, announced no public funding for defense companies that sell arms to Israel, and they want to end trade with Israel as well. I don't care about these left-wing lunatic European governments, but I do think it would be useful to get the war in Gaza over, and that means going hard and fast into Gaza City. Agree or disagree?
I completely agree. I think that Israel has found itself is on a precipice here because it has two conflicting interests. One is the return of all the hostages, and the other is winning the war against Hamas. And these are clearly now mutually contradictory. Unless something happens in the next couple of days that so scares whatever is the remnant of Hamas that they decide to give all the hostages back and thus create room for some kind of a ceasefire, Israel has to go in, or I think it is going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, and that would be calamitous for the future of the Middle East, for the future of the Jewish people, for the future of the state of Israel.
I listened to the podcast this morning. I think you folks have correctly diagnosed President Trump's attitude here. In fact, earlier today, he used Truth Social to say to Hamas, give back all 20 hostages, and in all caps, it will end. They're not going to do that. So that means you got to go block by block in Gaza City like the Allies did or the Soviets did in Berlin in 1945. And it's going to look the same at the end.
Look, if Israel is getting, sanctioned by Belgium and Scotland now, it should stop worrying about world opinion, because world opinion has turned decisively against Israel and against the Jewish people, and the only way forward is victory. So Israel has to create new facts on the ground in the Middle East, say, we were attacked, we are never going to allow anything like this ever to happen again. Come at us, go ahead. Do whatever, do your worst. You know what the worst was? We've already lived through the worst, and we're willing to take on our enemies and defeat them. Bibi Netanyahu has been trying to play a double game, a lot of it because of the weird behavior of the Biden administration, a lot of it because of his own internal domestic political situation and the understandable desire of the Israeli people to get everything that they possibly can, which is to say to get the hostages and to beat Hamas. And the problem is that we're now reaching the point at which it just does not appear as though those two can happen at the same time.
Yeah, all we need is clarity. In fact, if I hadn't already been standing, I would have stood up. I was running when you unleashed on Jake Sullivan yesterday or today, I can't remember. That is well overdue for him to say that. And you can explain what he did and why he did it.
So Jake Sullivan, who was Joe Biden's national security advisor and was Hillary Clinton's chief advisor when she was Secretary of State, and is a whelp of a man, and is married to a first-term New Hampshire congressman of extraordinarily limited capacity named Maggie Goodpaster, announced the other day that he agreed now that there should be an arms embargo on Israel. Really now? What has happened between his tenure in the Biden White House supporting Israel's efforts to protect itself and defend itself. And Biden, whatever Biden did, he sent arms to Israel. Now he wants to embargo them. Why? Because he's protecting his wife. Because he's trying to keep himself in with the mainstream and center of his party, the Overton window having shifted toward an extraordinarily hostile view in Israel. And a person with this kind of curvature of the moral spine should be called out for the disgrace that he is.
Yeah, that's unfair to the whelps out there who just say whelp. He's actually now engaged in perfidy. Now, John,
Fair enough.
Israel's lost 900 soldiers. That is 27,000 equivalent in American terms. That's the Korean War. And therefore, they've got to be exhausted and tired. I don't think world opinion has turned against Israel. I think left-wing opinion has turned against Israel, and left-wing governments happen to be in place with minority of their votes because of first past the poll systems in places like Great Britain. I think that will turn when they win, but they got to win. And I don't know if General Zamir's the guy to do it.
Well, he'll do it if he's told to do it. He doesn't want to do it. I don't know why he doesn't want to do it. I think he believes this is a hard battle. Urban warfare is the worst. It's incredibly difficult. It is incredibly dangerous. But Israel made its determination on October 8th that Hamas would not exist when the war was over. That was the main goal of the war, was the extirpation and elimination of Hamas. It was not the return of the hostages. It cannot be the return of the hostages. Too many Israelis have died because the return of the hostages has become the primary goal here. Those 900 Israelis who are dead, many of them, simply because Israel did not go all in on fighting the war for various complicated reasons. But it's going to have to do it now. And an enormously successful effort to get many of the hostages back. But now, my family, my reservist nephew and nephew-in-law and all that, they shouldn't have to exist for another year in harm's way to save 20 other people. There are a couple hundred thousand Israelis who are going to have to go into Gaza City, and conditioning their future lives on the lives of 20 others. At some point, this is a price too high to pay. It is not fair to place them in that position.
John, I asked AI yesterday, were there POWs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima? I was somewhat surprised to learn there were at least 400. So when we dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we killed 400 Americans. Is there a moral difference between America and Israel in the necessity of closing the war out?
Listen, Israel has a military policy with soldiers that if soldiers, in the wake of the kidnapping of soldiers, which is what happened before Hamas kidnapped civilians on October 7th, that if a soldier is kidnapped and the Israeli military gives chase, it is to shoot everybody, including the Israeli who has been taken captive, so that Israel is not put in the position of having to spend 5 years negotiating the life of that captive. What's different here is that almost everybody being held. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We choke up. I get dry throat all the time.
Almost everybody being held is a civilian. So the calculus is different. POWs are different from civilians, even in how we determine, who is considered, a sort of a target in war. That being said, it's 2 years. It's 23 months now that Israel has been at this war. And I just don't think, as I say, that the moral equation says that the Israeli army has to put itself at risk in the way that we're talking about for 20 people. It's a
last question, John. We have a minute.
It's not my doing.
It's
Hamas.
It's Hamas's fault. I've always had a rather clear vision of this. Is American Jewry as divided as Israel appears to be from afar?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, the answer is that American Jewry supports Israel. And how Israel chooses to conduct itself in this war is much less of a concern to American Jews than is the idea that Israel needs to be supported in this time of trouble.
All right, that is a well put. John Podhoretz, thank you for joining me. Everyone should watch John every morning on the Commentary Podcast. You go and sign up for it, like and subscribe at YouTube. Fabulous program. I listen to it every day. You need Adam White in there to talk about non-delegation doctrine, John, when you're doing Supreme Court stuff.
Humphrey's
but other than
executor.
that, yeah. Humphrey's,
Okay.
I was listening today saying, "Where's Adam?"
Humphrey's executor.
Very impressive. Very
Thank you very
impressive.
much.
But we still need Adam. Thank you, John. Former Congressman John Campbell joins me. John, why is gold at $3,621 an ounce?
Well, the move on gold up until recently, over the last few years, has been largely because central banks around the world have been buying gold and storing it as a store of value. In some cases, they used to do this with U.S. treasuries or U.S. dollars. And so in some cases, I mean, one of the big buyers has been China, for example. And they've determined that to keep their reserves, if you will, that they're best to use gold because it has been an international currency for 3,000 years. And so that's been driving the price of gold over the last 2 or 3 years. Americans, interestingly enough, have not been buying gold. And on balance, the last 2 or 3 years have been selling gold. So but it's a worldwide market, and the price is a world price, like oil and wheat and a bunch of other commodities like that. So that's what's driven it in the past. But now, this move recently, all of a sudden you're starting to see some American investment groups, some Americans. I happened to have, while I was at the gym this morning, they had CNBC on, which I tend to not watch. I call it bubble watch because it tends to talk about only that which has already gone up and just what's hype and what's exciting and all that. But they were talking about gold today, and I thought, uh-oh. This means when CNBC talks about gold, which they haven't.
Yeah, that's weird.
They haven't talked about it for decade. They haven't talked about it. And so for them to talk about it, it must mean, okay, it's now getting into the U.S. investment zeitgeist, which might create another demand for gold. I'm not an investment advisor. We don't give investment advice on this show. But I frankly think it's probably going up from here. In part, the central banks are still buying. They are still buying it. And the other thing that's driving it up is people ask me, I've owned gold for a while, and people ask me, well, why do you do that? It doesn't pay interest, doesn't pay a dividend, blah, blah, blah. I said, to me, it's insurance for what your government does with the value of your currency. If you had owned gold in Turkey the last 5 years, you'd be up 1,000%. Not because gold has gone up so much in dollars or some other thing, but because the value of the Turkish lira went to pieces. But your gold has retained its value. So I buy it as insurance against that. And there's a lot of people concerned right now that whether it's printing money or it's inflation or we keep lowering interest rates, that the value of the U.S. dollar is in jeopardy relative to commodities or property or other currencies or whatever, and gold's insurance against that. So I think you've got a number of factors. There's been some factors for years driving this up, central banks, but now central banks are still buying, but there may be some new buyers out there as well.
Well, the dog that didn't bark there, and I'm relieved that you didn't say it. I mean, it made a big jump in 2 days. In the 2 days since China held their big military parade and Putin and Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un got together and celebrated how very strong the alliance of tyrants is. So I wondered if some people aren't getting liquid in anticipation of conflict around the world.
I am with you on that subject, but I don't think that's where markets are. Markets these days particularly are very short term. They are, they're about what's the Fed going to do in 2 weeks and what tariffs they're going to be in on 1st of October and what are the earnings going to be when this quarter ends, September 30th, earnings season begins in 4 weeks, what are those going to show? I don't think markets believe that a new big war is imminent, meaning in the next 90 days. And so therefore, I don't think they're worried about it. I don't think that's it. Now, I obviously could be completely wrong. There could be some buyers out there thinking gold has often been a place where people ran during periods of international instability. But yet, when the Ukraine war started, when the war in the Middle East began against Hamas and so forth, gold didn't go up when those things happened. I thought it would, but it didn't. So people, the markets at least, didn't see that as those as instances to run into gold. So I'm not sure that now, just with Xi brandishing weapons and having people goose step. Does anybody notice they goose step? Is that
Yeah, they goose step.
Are they trying to send a message? I mean, we all know what goose step, what we think of when you think of the goose step. Anyway.
Now, I want to ask you, as a former member of Congress who is on the Financial Services Committee and the chair of the Federal Reserve Subcommittee, did you ever talk about changing the quarterly reporting system so that investors did not watch the clock every 3 months and adjust their holdings as a result? Because that is volatility baked in.
Did you bring that up? Because, okay, I'm the only person on the Financial Services Committee that wanted to do that. That was a big issue.
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that.
You literally just threw a curveball and hung it right over the plate for me, which I very much appreciate. I mean, the Cleveland Indians do that all the time, so I very much appreciate that. But this was a big issue for me, and I went absolutely nowhere with it. I couldn't get Democrats or my Republican friends on board with this. I have thought for some time that markets are too short-term oriented, and there's too much volatility, and people in general, markets, everybody else, aren't thinking longer term, and that this is bad for the economy and for the country and so forth. So one of the things I want to do in Europe, by the way, they do not do quarterly reporting. It's every 6 months. And so it's one of the very few places where I think Europe does it better than we do. And so I proposed that, actually had a bill for that, went absolutely nowhere, got absolutely no interest. Another thing
was it inertia or was it ideological?
I think it's probably just
the
inertia.
opposition.
I think people just didn't see, why do I want to, what do I gain from supporting this kind of thing? Nobody seems to be for this. The Goldman Sachs isn't for it. JP Morgan isn't for it.
There are a lot of lawyers and accountants who make a lot of money off of quarterly reports. Bottom line is there are a lot of people who have to write those things.
And that as well. One other thing, there was this high frequency trading that goes on computers that trade literally in seconds. And another proposal I had, that this will shock you, is that high frequency traders had to wait 1 second in between trades. 1 second. You would have thought I just told them I was burning their house down. I mean, they went absolutely apoplectic. We can't do that. We create liquidity for the market. I said, 1 second. What's 1 second? So if that may give you an idea of how short term a lot of the thinking is out there. And right now in the markets today, more options are traded than stocks. So more people are just betting on options on what a stock will do over the next, and many of those options are same day. They're not an option on next week or next month or next year. They're an option within the trading day today. And that's where an enormous amount of options are. This is not, to me, this is not investment. This isn't even speculation. This is gambling. And if you want to gamble, that's one thing. But we're gambling with the economy. We're gambling with what makes America work, which is business and industry and all that. And I think that should be investment and not gambling.
Well, I agree with you. I have one of those rare days that everything that John Campbell, who is largely responsible for California's condition, and I agreed on everything. Congressman John Campbell, thank you. Follow him on X at JBT Campbell. Donald Trump gave a lot of remarks to a lot of reporters today when he met in the Oval with President of Poland, cut number 8 on the LA Olympics that almost weren't.
So we're going to be going to maybe Louisiana, and you have New Orleans, which has a crime problem. We'll straighten that out in about 2 weeks. It'll take us 2 weeks, easier than D.C. But we could straighten out Chicago. All they have to do is ask us. To go into Chicago, if we don't have the support of some of these politicians, But I'll tell you who is supporting us, the people of Chicago. And I sort of want them to let it be known. They have incompetent people. A guy like Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of a state that if we didn't go into Los Angeles with our soldiers, with our National Guard, you wouldn't even be having the Olympics there. They were going to take it. And remember this, your top law enforcement officer in Los Angeles said, there's no way we could have done this without President Trump coming in with the troops. We saved Los Angeles and we saved the Olympics.
Now, he's right, by the way. I was in L.A. doing local news for KCET in 1992. That's the PBS affiliate then. And the L.A. riots started in an afternoon when Reginald Denny was beaten at the corner of Florence and Normandy, and television helicopters were in the air broadcasting it. And when the police didn't show up and the message went forth that Daryl Gates, for whatever reason, wasn't going to respond to violence that day, the city went up that quickly. That's how quick, and that's before social media. So if in 1992 the city can go up in flames and 50 plus people die before there's social media, imagine what would have happened in LA had Trump not assisted LA police and LA sheriff in suppressing the disruptions earlier this year. Cut number 9, more on crime from President Trump in the Oval.
This is the best issue of all. They are against preventing crime. They are fighting us. I want to go into Chicago, and I have this incompetent governor that doesn't want us. Do you know that this weekend 72 people were shot in Chicago? I'm embarrassed to say it in front of the president of Poland. 11 people were killed. 72 people were shot. Last week, 7 people were killed in Chicago, a place which is probably your number one place. I hate to say it.
Yeah, I love the polls.
And we got to keep it safe. But 7 people were killed. The week before that, 5 people were killed, and 21 people were shot. This is in 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks, they lost almost 35 people were killed.
So you may have seen that yesterday the United States Navy blew up, I think it was the Navy, I don't know if it was a drone or the Navy, I think it was the Navy, blew up a drone-running speedboat in the Caribbean. Marco Rubio got asked about that today, cut 21.
The United States has long, for many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them. The President of the United States is going to wage war on narco-terrorist organizations. This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison. And under President Trump, those days are over.
And it wasn't.
And J.D. Vance, the vice president, got asked about the same thing, cut number 22.
On the Venezuela vessel strike, what legal authority were you guys working under, and will there be an after report on the strike?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be an after report. I mean, the legal authority, and I want to talk about these kids, is that there are people who are bringing literal terrorists who are bringing deadly drugs into our country, and the President of the United States ran on a promise of stopping this poison from coming into our country. Another question?
So the legal authority is the national security of the United States. Would he have had the legal authority to shoot down the 9/11 hijackers had we known they were headed for the towers? Yes. Under what authority? Commander-in-Chief. Business of the president to protect the United States. He's got a boat full of fentanyl coming from Venezuela at high speed. Fentanyl gets in the United States, it kills people. Does he have the authority to blow it up? I think so. I'd like him to talk about it, but I think Marco Rubio, let's play him again, cut 21, was on point.
The United States has long, for many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them. The President of the United States is going to wage war on narco-terrorist organizations. This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison. And under President Trump, those days are over.
And I don't think the American people are unhappy with that. I think they're going to support that. What do you think? I'll talk with some of you after Selena Zito gives me her opinion. Selena Zito is the author of Butler, the #1 best-selling New York Times book about President Trump and the day he was shot. The day after he was shot, he called Selena Zito 6 times, and they've been talking a lot before and since. Selena, today the president was in the Oval talking about blowing up the drug boat from Venezuela. Before I play his clip, what did you think about that action?
Well, based on talking to voters, I thought what I heard was, this is what we voted for.
That's actually, I think it's going to be an 80-20 issue. Let's listen to what the president said, and then I'll come back to you. This is cut number 16, the president in the Oval Office about the drug boat he blew up yesterday.
On the boat, you had massive amounts of drugs. We have tapes of them speaking. It was massive amounts of drugs coming into our country to kill a lot of people. And everybody fully understands that. In fact, you see it. You see the bags of drugs all over the boat. And they were hit. Obviously, they won't be doing it again. And I think a lot of other people won't be doing it again when they watch that tape. They're going to say, let's not do this. We have to protect our country.
I think, Selena, will people get the message in Venezuela, don't run drugs in the United States?
Probably not. No, I don't know. When you see something get blown up, that might make you think twice, or you just might decide to do another thing. But this is something they've been doing for decades. Look, I think the American people, like fentanyl, doesn't check your voter registration, right? So I think Republicans and Democrats look at that. Parents that have lost children, either through overdoses or they just are gone into society, right? And they're homeless, whatever. They're lost, and they look at this and say, this has been killing our treasure since the mid 90s. We need to do something. We need to send a message that this is not tolerated.
Well, Marco Rubio said this today, cut 21.
The United States has long, for many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them.
And Vice President Vance was asked about it in Minneapolis today, cut 22.
On the Venezuela vessel strike, what legal authority were you guys working under, and will there be an after report on the strike?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be an after report. I mean, the legal authority, and I want to talk about these kids, is that there are people who are bringing literal terrorists who are bringing deadly drugs into our country, and the President of the United States ran on a promise of stopping this poison from coming into our country. All
right, so Selena, that's not a legal authority. I think the legal authority is the president is the commander-in-chief and is charged with the nation's defense, and that this is an act of war against the United States to bring in a killer substance. Will that satisfy voters in Butler?
Oh yeah, I mean these drugs are a weapon of mass destruction. They wipe out families, they wipe out communities, they wipe out towns. This is fentanyl and illegal drug trade has been a hallmark of what President Trump wanted to accomplish, in particular in Appalachia and the Midwest and the West, where overdoses are just at historic highs. And nothing else was working. No other preventative measures were stopping these guys, right? So you had to send a message, and he definitely sent a message. Now, will they try other ways to get it in? Sure, but I'm sure President Trump will have other messages to send when they do that.
Well, I think what the Secretary of State was saying, interdiction requires a Coast Guard cutter. We haven't got an endless supply of Coast Guard cutters, so if we have 5 Coast Guard cutters, they're going to send 25 boats. But we got 25 drones. That's what I think he was sending. And I will ask callers next hour to weigh in on this, but I think generally Americans are going to applaud, even though they don't know the backstory. Now, we turned an MS-13 fellow into a folk hero on the left in Maryland. Do you think we're going to have vigils for the 11 drug runners who were killed?
even suggest that. They might do that. Think about
Oh, they
all the
will do
people
that.
Oh God. They'll never learn. They'll never
Yeah.
win a majority again if they continue to think like that. I'm just telling you. You go to Akron, you go to Warren, you go into that corridor where the drugs come straight up and then go out to New York City and to up into New England. You ask the people that live there, and they'll tell you exactly how they feel, and it's not going to have anything to do with applauding 11 dead people in a boat.
Selena, I did a story earlier today because it came out of Canton. 8 indicted on changes ranging from immigration violations to identity theft. Now, these might be nice people. Marcial Angel Alvarez, 46 of Guatemala, Emilio Perez, 31 of Guatemala, Justo Maya Calles, 55 of El Salvador, Domingo Calle Herrera, 34 of Guatemala, Juan de Leon Hernandez of Guatemala, 33, Pedro de Leon Hernandez, 21 of Guatemala, Diego Perez Ajanas, 37 of Guatemala, Victor Ramos Santos, 44 of Guatemala. All of them had made false claims of citizenship. All of them had misused Social Security numbers. All of them were engaged in aggregated identity theft. This is not acceptable. And I'm kind of shocked it's in Canton at a manufacturing facility, but I expect it's everywhere in the United States, and I don't think people are going to be upset with it.
No, they're absolutely not. People have no problem with legal immigration. Nobody does. That's what made our country the way it is. They do have a problem with not only an illegal crossing, but then numerous crimes that start out small but then get bigger and escalate to bigger degrees because they continue to get away with it. That is not acceptable to anyone.
Yeah, I don't know what, it doesn't name the manufacturing facility in Canton, but all of these individuals were at one manufacturing facility. So that's pathway migration. It's been long studied, is that you follow your brother, your uncle, your nephew, and you go to work at wherever they're working, and you steal an identity, and you try and stay away from the law. But I don't think we're going to have, I don't think the president's going to lose votes over this. Selena, congratulations on Butler. Continues up there on the bestsellers list. Americans, if you haven't read it yet, you want to know what happened in 2024, the story is in Butler by Selena Zito. Thank you, Selena. Thank you for listening today. Coming up next hour, I'm going to talk to you about the Venezuelan boat that was blown up yesterday. We have President Trump, Secretary Rubio, Vice President Vance all weighing in. I want to hear what you think about it. 1-800-520-1234. First-time callers only. 1-800-520-1234. Are you glad we blew up the boat? And I assure you, we got enough drones that we can blow up every boat. I don't want to make any mistakes. I don't think they made any mistakes. Secretary Hegseth on Fox and Friends said, we know exactly what was on the boat. We know who was on the boat. We heard what they were saying on the boat, and we blew up the boat. And Secretary Rubio, Vice President Vance, President Trump, all echoing, we've got the authority. I think he's got the authority as Commander-in-Chief. Selena Zito said it. I wouldn't have used that term, weapon of mass destruction, but it is a threat against the United States to import illegal drugs and head that way, and I'm all for it. And I think it will have its effect. This is not a drug. This is a natural supplement. It's Relief Factor. I take it every day in the first hour on air. You watch me on the Salem News Channel taking it, and I remind you in hours 2 and 3, I take it every day for one reason. I do a lot of activity. I hit my 7th consecutive 10K today. No, I wasn't running today. Today I was just walking at a good brisk pace with the heart rate up. And that's because 7 in a row is taxing. I don't normally do that. I normally do 2 on, a day off, 2 on, a day off, 2 on, a day off, and I'll mix in 3s and 4s. But I had not done a week of 10Ks all summer long. And that's because of visitors and schedules and different things happening. So I thought once things calmed down, and the weather permitted, I was going to do that, and I did. And it's a good test of Relief Factor. I'm fine. Nothing hurts, nothing aches, nothing at all remotely resembling a strain or the minor ache and pain, and I credit Relief Factor, which I take every day. Give it a try. Call 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief. The 3-week starter pack costs only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. That means you take 3 a day, 3 packets a day for the first week, 2 packets a day for the second week, then you're a packet a day forever. The levels of Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, and omega are up in your body. helping your body's anti-inflammatory system keep you free of the minor aches and pain that come with exercises and with aging. And you're definitely doing the latter. You should be doing the former. Maybe you can't do a 10K, but you can do 600 yards or 600 steps and then increase it day by day and get your heart rate up. You'll feel better for it, and Relief Factor will make sure you don't feel aches and pains as a result. Coming back after at the top of the hour, 1-800-520-1234. I want to know what you think about blowing up the boat. 1-800-520-1234. Harley will screen your calls during the break. You've got a few minutes to get in. 1-800-520-1234. I'm going to be on Hannity tonight. I don't know if this was coming up, but if it does, I want to be able to say I talked to a bunch of Americans today. It has to be first-time callers, by the way, not my regulars, so I'd like to get 2 cents in. First-time callers only. Are you glad we blew up the boat? We being the United States military, the boat being the Venezuelan drug runners that got blown to smithereens yesterday. 1-800-520-1234. Yesterday, President Trump ordered a boat that originated in Venezuela full of what is alleged to be drug traffickers, cocaine and fentanyl, to be blown up. It was blown up. The president got a question about it in the Oval Office today. His response was pretty straightforward. It is cut number... which cut was it, guys? I used it. Cut number 16.
On the boat, you had massive amounts of drugs. We have tapes of them speaking. It was massive amounts of drugs coming into our country to kill a lot of people. And everybody fully understands that. In fact, you see it. You see the bags of drugs all over the boat. And they were hit, obviously. They won't be doing it again. And I think a lot of other people won't be doing it again when they watch that tape. They're going to say, let's not do this. We have to protect our country, and we're going to. Venezuela's been a very bad actor. They've been, as you know, they've been sending millions of people into our country, many of them Tren de Aragua, some of the worst gangs, some of the worst people anywhere in the world in terms of gangs. And we had some in Washington, D.C. We took care of them very quickly, but they're out of here. They've gone. But Venezuela's been very bad, both in terms of drugs and sending some of the worst criminals anywhere in the world into our country. They emptied out, you don't know this, but they emptied out their prisons in Venezuela, and they emptied them out into the United States of America. And that's part of the problem we have. We're getting them out. We're getting them out rapidly, but it's caused a tremendous problem. And Pete and all of the people that are working very hard to rectify the stupidity of the Biden administration, allowing these people to pour into our country with open borders. We are paying a big price as a country.
My phone number is 1-800-520-1234. Are you glad the president ordered the strike? 1-800-520-1234. The BBC, the British Broadcast Corporation, has a story. They reached out to a range of experts in international and maritime law, with several saying the U.S. may have acted illegally in attacking the vessel. And I'm sure that they can find experts to say that. But we have an authorization for the use of military force against terrorists in the United States that dates back to after 9/11. And as you can see, if you're watching on the Salem News Channel, the president stopped whoever was on that boat from coming anywhere near the United States. Secretary Rubio was asked about this today, cut number 21.
The United States has long, for many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them. The President of the United States is going to wage war on narco-terrorist organizations. This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison. And under President Trump, those days are over.
And it wasn't
1-800-520-1234. 1-800-520-1234. Do you agree that the president did the right thing, or do you disagree? Vice President Vance was asked about this today on the tarmac in Minneapolis, cut number 22.
On the Venezuela vessel strike, what legal authority were you guys working under, and will there be an after report on the strike?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be an after report. I mean, the legal authority, and I want to talk about these kids, is that there are people who are bringing literal terrorists who are bringing deadly drugs into our country, and the President of the United States ran on a promise of stopping this poison from coming into our country. Another question?
Now, I've got a Notre Dame law professor, Mary Ellen O'Connell, telling BBC that the strike, quote, violated fundamental principles of international law, adding intentional killing outside of armed conflict hostilities is unlawful unless it is to save a life immediately. I actually don't believe that's correct. I don't care what international law says. The president has the constitutional authority as commander-in-chief to stop narcotics from coming into the United States. What did the vice president have to say? Cut number 22. Or we don't have cut number 22? It died on us? All right. All right, it's not working. Okay, I'm waiting for your phone calls now. 1-800-520-1234. Who's in St. Paul, Adam? Dan in St. Paul, what do you think?
Hi, Hugh.
Hey.
My feeling is that if you were to place yourself in someone's shoes who's maybe lost a family member to drugs, and you want to prevent others from having to go through your misery, I think you'd be fine with these killers bringing their, trying to get rich, bringing the drugs in, which ruin Americans' lives. It's no different than shooting somebody if you drug them,
Are you such a person? Do you know someone who's died from drugs?
Just distantly, not real close.
I do, and I believe that their parents would agree with you. Thank you, Dan. Sherry in Minnesota, also in Minnesota. What do you think, Sherry?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I 100% agree with what the president did. I'm not only in total agreement, I'm also thrilled that we're finally doing something like this.
And do you want him to do it again?
Yes.
And again?
I mean, I can't think of the possible upside that why you wouldn't do something like that. I mean, for what possible good could they have been trying to get into our country with those drugs? Like, what is
Our
the
civil,
flip side?
well, there is no good, but our civil libertarians will say, what if they have a hostage on the boat? What if there's an innocent person on the boat that is being put on the boat to deter the United States from striking it? That's basically what Hamas is doing in Gaza.
I mean, sure. I'm so tired of all of those arguments. I mean, then why not, get rid of abortion if you want to start saving innocent people?
All right. I just wanted, I'm preparing everyone for the argument. I don't know if I'm doing it on Hannity tonight. I suspect I am, but we'll see. Thank you, Sherry. Sharon in Pittsburgh. What do you think, Sharon?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. I agree 100% with what Trump did, and I applaud him, and I hope that he continues to act accordingly on our behalf. I do have a family member that I lost from fentanyl, and it's poison. It doesn't need to be here. And why is it okay to kill people over here with that and not take out people in the water that are bringing it over?
Do you need any citation to legal authority?
Pardon me?
Do you need the president to come up with a citation to legal authority allowing him to do this?
No, he's doing what his job is, and that's to protect us.
All
and
right.
that's a poison that's coming across that doesn't need to be here.
Thank you, Sharon. Jesse, San Jose, California. What do you think, Jesse?
Hey there. First-time caller, long-time listener. Love your show.
Thank you.
This is 115% what I voted for. I hope he does it again to whatever else comes across those waters carrying a boatload of drugs that could kill the U.S. population 2 times over. I mean, this is narco-terrorism, and it needs to be stopped.
Do you worry that they might have innocents on board?
We can play devil's advocate on all these different scenarios all day long, but the bottom line is I'm happy the president took action while he did, and those guys, those horrible monsters, didn't make it to our shores with a boatload of narcotics. I have family members that have been affected by the opioid epidemic, the fentanyl epidemic, and I'm tired of seeing it hit our streets, and it's something that needs to be done. If we could do it in open water, do it in open water.
Thank you, Jesse. Alice, L.A., what do you think, Alice?
I'm doing fine. I called on another number before, but I didn't answer it. It just kept ringing, and now I went back to it, and it's gone. So This is my one and only call, so I'm glad you took it. And I adore our president. I thank God for him, and everything that he does. I say, let Trump do what he does, because he's always right.
All right, Alice, you're not upset at all. Thank you. Dory in Phoenix. What do you think, Dory?
Hello. I think that I'm sick of the lawlessness. I'm sick of them letting people pour in for the last 4, 8, 10 years. I'm sick of all of it. So I'm glad, even if President Trump does something that maybe seems a little bit outside the coloring lines, I'm for it because I'm so over it. And I did lose my sister, that is her son. Her only son was lost to an accidental fentanyl overdose. And I also, I don't want to let in terrorists of any kind into our country. And if this is what it takes at this point, so be it.
All right, Alice, thank you. Oh, Dory, thank you. I will be right back, America. Don't go anywhere. I'll continue to take your calls on this question. 1-800-520-1234. President ordered the boat be blown up. Pete Hegseth executed that order. It had to come from Southern Command, I assume. It was not a Coast Guard drone, I don't believe. But I haven't seen any details on the chain of command, but I assume it's the President to Pete Hegseth to Southern Command. And I don't know if it's a drone operated out of our San Antonio facility. Don't know any of those details. There was definitely the American military, maybe the Coast Guard. We'll find out. I'm Hugh Hewitt in the Relief Factor studio. Don't forget, Relief Factor every hour. I tell you about it because I'm in the Relief Factor studio and they make it possible for me to talk to you on the Salem News Channel, over the Salem Radio Network, and over our great affiliates wherever you are at any time of the day. Also, of course, Hugh Hewitt YouTube. You can get all the interviews that we do. But Relief Factor makes it happen. I take it every day on the air in the first hour. I remind you about it hours 2 and 3. Because I know you're sitting there waiting online, and that doesn't really hurt unless it hurts your elbow. And some of you are driving, and you do hurt because your back is aching or your knees are rebelling against a long commute, or goodness knows, you're on the Beltway in D.C. or you're on the 10 in L.A. or anywhere in between, and it's stopped dead, and you're immobile, and your body starts to say, I hate this. That's when you wish you had taken Relief Factor for the last 3 weeks and gotten the levels of Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, omega up in your body to help your body's natural anti-inflammatory defenses kick in. Now, there is a 3-week starter pack. You don't have to believe me. You have to bet $20 on getting rid of the pain that bothers you. $20, $19.95, less than $1 a day for a 3-week supply. And it's more than 1 packet a day. 3 packets a day for the first week, 2 packets a day for the second week, 1 packet a day for the third week, and every day thereafter. Thousands of you have tried it. I've taken it for more than 12 years now. Only supplement I've taken for more than 20 years. A lot of people offer me a lot of money to take other supplements, but I don't need them, I don't want them, and I don't take them. But I take Relief Factor because it works. Trust me on this. Call 1-800, the number 4 in the word relief, 1-800-4RELIEF. Ask for the starter pack, $19.95, or go and find it on their website at relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. John in Michigan. What do you think, John?
Absolutely. I think that we should keep bombing these ships. I also think, we should give serious consideration of bombing Sinaloa, the state in Mexico. I think it's right along the Pacific there. I don't know why the CIA doesn't do that. It's supply and demand. We get people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talking about the demand and how it's ruining our American youth. And then the supply side, I bomb them. We know who makes this crap. And I don't know why we can't bomb the hell out of Sinaloa cartel people in Mexico.
I wouldn't rule anything out. I think he's given an ultimatum to the president of Mexico to get serious or get ready. Eric in San Jose. Thank you, John. Eric in San Jose, California. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, hey, Hugh. Anyone that challenges the constitutionality of it, I just say, what word comes in front of domestic tranquility in the preamble is ensure domestic tranquility. And, that's pretty much a state of calmness and a lack of disturbance. We don't need to wait around for problems to ensue, to wait for, these things. This is really assurance and insurance of our tranquility as defined by the Constitution. That's
all right, good argument. Wouldn't make it in court because the preamble has no actuality to it. It's not executing, but it's a good argument about the intention and for the commander-in-chief power. Thank you. Peggy in Simi Valley. What do you think, Peggy?
Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to say that I think Trump did the absolute wonderful thing. And the innocents that are lost, it's tragic, but most of them know they must be sacrificed for the better good.
I don't know that there are any innocents on this boat. That hadn't been alleged. I'm just coming up with the hypotheticals that the international lawyers are going to come up with when the International Criminal Court serves out a warrant against Donald Trump and Marco Rubio. We're not going to bomb the ICC, but we should sanction them. Thank you. Mark in Hawaii. What do you think, Mark?
Hey, Hugh. How are you?
Great.
So this drug war, to me, I'm a Navy veteran. It's war on drugs. So we use all the available weapons we have to make sure that we neutralize these people and not let them get to our country. I lost a cousin who had 4 children from drugs, and I ended up supporting these kids through school and all that. So, yeah, I hate them. They shouldn't be here. Let's use our military weapons to annihilate them.
All right. Thank you, Mark in Hawaii. Let's go to Wisconsin next. Lori, what do you say, Lori?
Oh, I love you, first of all, and we love you in
Thank you.
Wisconsin. Yes, absolutely. I think Trump is always right. And I want to say, why would you wait till they get here? When they're in this country, it is so hard to get rid of them. And I would hope that Bernie Sanders and what happens in Vermont with fentanyl would be cheering this instead of going against it. And our military, I think they're cheering it. Our police officers and our people on the ground, absolutely. You don't wait till the threat is in here. You get it before it starts. And that is brilliant. And amen. And keep going, Trump. And thank you, Hugh, for letting us have a voice.
Where are you, Lori, in Wisconsin, by the way?
I am in Eau Claire.
Oh, I know Eau Claire. You're listening on AM 1280 The Patriot out of Minneapolis.
No, I'm listening on WWIB.
Oh, I'm sorry, WWID. I'm sorry, I forgot. Eau Claire is oh dear, I'm in trouble now. But you know, the Browns are going to beat the Packers. I just want that on the record. Thank you.
Come on.
No, I got that in. September 12th, Browns over the Packers. Just want to get you ready for it. Thank you. Austin in LA, what do you think?
Hey, Hewitt.
Hey.
Hey, so I'm okay with the president bombing the drug boats coming out of Venezuela, but I don't see it as a long-term solution. Just like prohibition, the demand's always going to be there. So what we need to do is legalize drugs.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I see it the same issue with immigration. I'm all for shutting down the border and deporting the people who are here illegally, but until you hold the CEOs of these corporations who hire them responsible.
I know there's a manufacturing plant in Canton, Ohio, that had employed 8 illegals, all of whom had stolen identities and Social Security numbers. They're all been arrested. I want to know about the CEO of that manufacturing plant. Thank you, Austin. Let me go to Indiana. Let me go to the heartland. Kim. Hello, Kim.
Hello. How are you doing?
Great. What do you think about the drug boat?
I am all for it. That's why I voted for that man, to protect our borders, be it land, sea, or air.
That's well put. That's very well put. Thank you, Kim. Tom in Minnesota cold. Hello, Tom.
It's so cold up here.
Yep.
I'm 100% behind it. And it's not, we just didn't blow them out of the water. They got warned 3-4 times. Our military, they got procedures. And
I don't know that they were warned. I have not read that anywhere.
Well, okay, I would bet that our guys tried to get them to stop. And if they
no, it was Southcom, and I think they just executed on the order like we do when we get a terrorist in Somalia with a drone. Thank you, my friend. One more before the break. John in Santa Monica, 1-800-520-1234. John, yay or nay, blow up the boat?
Good topic. Let me just throw out some questions. Would this been Thomas Jefferson with piracy on the high seas back in his day? Possibly.
Yep.
Justification.
Yep.
And then the other thing, is this a one-off stunt? Because he's going to have to do this every day.
I think so, and I think he is prepared to do so. And I bet you Southcom has the capability. If Admiral Stab was available, I would ask him, but he's not. He's under contract from CNN, so he can't come on my show. But I wish he could, because he's got to be on CNN talking about this tonight. Former head of Southcom. Stay tuned, America. I'm going to talk to Sarah Bedford and then be back for more of your calls at 1-800-520-1234. Sarah Bedford is the Washington Examiner political investigative reporter. Sarah, it sounds like the Republicans in the Senate are ready to go nuclear and blow up the confirmation process, doing away with the requirement that every nominee have 2 hours of debate or 30 hours of debate or whatever it is. They're going to end it. What do you hear? What do you think?
Yeah, support for that built over the recess because there was and still is this enormous backlog of nominees that need to be confirmed throughout the federal government. So some of the options that had been on the table were, like you said, cutting the debate time for each nominee from 2 hours to just 15 minutes, or eliminating some of the sort of procedural hurdles that have to happen in committees and between the committees and the floor vote. And it does seem that the Republican conference is ready to use the nuclear option, which is just Republicans using a simple majority to change the rules to allow them to finally clear this backlog.
Let's give a listen to a minute of what the Republicans said when they emerged from their conference meeting today.
We just had a very productive meeting where our conference talked about clearing the nominations backlog. And we are where we are right now because of the Democrat obstruction, which is historic and unprecedented. We have never seen a time where the opposition party has literally blocked and forced the president and his team, and us here as the majority in the Senate, to go through all the machinations of trying to get a nominee across the finish line. It used to be that these were done largely by unanimous consent or voice vote. And this president is the only president at this point in his presidency, going back to Herbert Hoover. We went back all the way to the Hoover administration, who hasn't had a single one of his noms confirmed either by voice vote or unanimous consent. So this is of the Democrats' making. It's not something that we can sustain. This business model doesn't work. This president was duly elected by the American people, and they expect him to be able to put his team in place to govern the country and enact the agenda that they voted for. So,
Sarah, I don't know, the majority leader is going to be my guest tomorrow. I'll ask him detailed questions about what the new rule will be. I hope it's simply, if you come out of committee, you get a vote after 7 days, and there will be no holds and there will be no debate. I hope it's something that simple. Do you think they'll go that radical?
I think they could take it even further. There had been serious talk about being able to sort of bundle similar nominations together and advance multiple nominees with just one committee vote. So, for example, on the Senate Judiciary Committee, you have an enormous backlog of U.S. attorneys. I mean, Donald Trump only has 2 confirmed federal prosecutors in these offices throughout the country. That's completely abnormal. Democrats are really abusing the blue slip process there. So you could, in theory, have the committee be able to vote on multiple U.S. attorneys in sort of one go, put them on the floor, and then cut the debate time and be able to move them more quickly.
Have those U.S. attorneys cleared committee? The one thing I'm leery of is cutting the committee process out.
Right, and so is Chuck Grassley, who is the chairman of that committee, and multiple other Republicans on that committee, saying the blue slip process is sort of a unique animal when it comes to these things that needs to be in place. But traditionally, when a home state Democrat would say to a Republican president, or vice versa, I don't like your nominee, they would at least propose an alternative Republican U.S. attorney they could live with, right? And there would be some sort of compromise. Even that's not happening. Democrats are saying, we can't live with anyone. You can't have a single person in these positions, and we're just going to run out the clock on your interim appointees, so then we can have, liberal judges install their picks in the U.S. attorney offices, which is a whole other thing. But you are seeing the process break down in an unprecedented way, which is why you see Republicans considering these unprecedented steps.
Now, I want to remind people the nuclear option was first proposed by Bill Frist in 2005 in the face of the judicial blockade of Bush judicial nominees. Frist was undercut by 7 members of his own party in the Gang of 14, and so the nuclear option did not proceed. I think it wounded Frist forever. And then Reid used the nuclear option to get judges confirmed. McConnell expanded the Supreme Court. So we've had 2 deployments of the nuclear option before. And it's always about nominees. It's not about legislation. Do you think, let's just get to the bottom line, do you think by Friday we're going to be confirming people, Sarah?
I don't know if it'll be that quick, but I do think it will be soon. This just can't go on in the Senate. And, you know, using the nuclear option is in a lot of ways a race to the bottom. Once you start, it's hard for whatever party's in the majority to stop themselves once you sort of see the ease of it. But I don't know that Republicans have a lot of other options.
Well said. Sarah Bedford, always a pleasure. Follow her at Sarah C. Bedford on X. Sarah C. Bedford on X. Coming back for more of your calls on the Venezuelan drug boat. And I did tell you, Majority Leader Thune on tomorrow's Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm Hugh Hewitt asking the audience, are you approving of President Trump's decision to order Southern Command to blow up the boat from Venezuela laden with drugs headed towards the United States? Robert in Connecticut, what do you think?
Hugh, I think I heard you say something about having some signals intelligence from this boat prior to that. On the assumption that that's the case, absolutely. This is asymmetric warfare. Those people are coming in. They're doing harm to our citizenry. We need to protect our citizens in the entire United States and also in the People's Democratic Republic of Connecticut.
Okay, now also tell me something. If we don't have signals intelligence and we just think it matches, it looks like, it sounds like, it walks like a duck, should we bomb it like a duck?
Well, I won't answer that question directly. I'm going to say that I hope that we had something that told us that these guys were who we are telling people they are in the press.
Well, the president said that.
If we don't have anything at all, if it just looks like a boat, then I don't think we should be blowing it up just because it's a boat.
Speedboat with 11 guys on it with what look like bales of drugs, that change your mind? I'm sure we've got satellite imagery because I've seen the pictures.
Sure, I'm sure we have that imagery, and I'm reasonably well convinced we had it. In the 80s flying for the Navy, we had signals intelligence that would tell us it was the Soviet Union, and we would be able to determine how we were going to prosecute and track whatever it was we were tracking.
What's a fine naval aviator doing in Connecticut?
It's the People's Democratic Republic of Connecticut, please, and I married a Connecticut farm girl.
Well, it is the United States. You have right to move. New Hampshire's not far away. Live free or die.
I'll get a chance to meet you at the end of the month. I'll see you at the end of the month in Connecticut.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'll be there.
All right. See you then. Be well, Robert. Brent in Los Angeles. What do you think, Brent?
Divine dittos, Hugh.
Thank you.
Had President Trump not destroyed the Marxist soldiers of Maduro, I would have considered it to be an act of treason. The current Democrat war against America has murdered more Americans than any other war in our history. The Democrats have murdered more Americans in
Brent,
this war.
You're a little off topic. I just want to know if you wanted to blow up the boat.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, friend. Alice in Atlanta. Should we blow up the boat?
Yes, you absolutely have 2 strong votes. The other one is the overnight clerk at the gas station in Lewisburg, West Virginia, who told me that he was tired of dragging dead bodies out of the bathroom. And it was because the teenagers were going in there at night at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, shooting up, overdosing, and dying. And he had actually dragged 4 teenagers, all who died, out of that gas station bathroom while he was on duty. That's the kind of impact that we're having here in the United States due to fentanyl.
100,000 people a year. Sometimes it's 90, sometimes it's more, but it's a lot of people.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Every time we do an event at the Nixon Library in Yorba Linda, the parents of fentanyl victims rally in the parking lot to draw attention to the fact that the country is awash in this poison. So I am not crying a tear for drug runners, not one tear, and I think the president has the authority under the commander-in-chief provision. Thank you, Alice. Ross in Arizona. How are you, Ross? What do you think?
Pretty good. Thanks. I'm glad you're back in the afternoons.
Oh, so am
I.
I.
It was okay with what happened and everything, but there was something else about as far as the innocence there. I believe it was back in World War II, the Lusitania. England had that decipher machine that they knew it was going to be bombed, and they let it go because to secure, I guess, the English forces and the U.S. forces for a battle.
Well, Blenheim had broken the Enigma machine, and the British had to be very careful about alerting the Germans to the fact that the Brits had broken Enigma, Alan Turing, and therefore there's a great deal of debate over whether or not Churchill knew about or did not know about a bombing of a city, and the city's name escapes me at this moment, but there's a debate about that, but they certainly went to great lengths, as he said, truth must be guarded by a bodyguard of lies. Thank you, John. Ross. John in Everett, Washington, 1-800-520-1234. Go ahead, John.
Oh, thank you for accepting my call. I just wanted to say I've lost so many loved ones to these drugs. And let me tell you something. I voted for Trump 3 times, and I have no problem blowing anything up. You know, it's just gotten that bad.
Well said, and succinctly. Thank you, John. More of your calls coming up, 1-800-520-1234. We do have a sponsor here, Americans for a Balanced Budget, and they are urging Congress to renew the tax credits that go along with the obligation to get your Medicare or your health insurance, not your Medicare, your health insurance, through the Obamacare state exchanges. The website is stophealthcosthikes.com. Stophealthcosthikes.com. One more time, stophealthcosthikes.com. Why are they there? They are there to gather support to extend the tax credits which Congress put into the law years ago to defray the cost of the ridiculously exorbitantly expensive Obamacare exchange policy. Some people lost their insurance from their employers when Obamacare came in. Other people have since come into the workforce. They were on their parents' policy until 25. Then they're off their parents' policy. They're in school or they're not working, and they got to go get some insurance because they're not dummies, but they do get sticker shock. One of the things that helps ease the sticker shock are tax credits for people forced into the state exchanges. Millions might lose their coverage entirely unless these exchange credits are extended. So please visit stophealthcosthikes.com. Stophealthcosthikes.com. Americans for a Balanced Budget. Good group, good sponsor. Jay in Detroit. What do you think, Jay?
Hi, Hugh. I think those strikes should be happening every hour on the hour, and that dirtbag attorney, liberal attorney who called should be shot himself.
No, I didn't have any dirtbag liberal attorney call.
Well, whoever was against the bomb or the shooting of the
okay. I just
boat.
I usually run down the dirtbag liberal attorneys myself, so someone got. I don't mind if people are against it, but I want them to identify themselves as dirtbag liberal attorneys if they do. I'll get more calls after the break. We blew up a drug boat yesterday on orders of President Trump. I'm asking people if they approve. Let's start in the east and move west. 30-second rule is in effect. Danny in Amsterdam, New York. What do you say, Danny?
Yes, I totally believe in what he did, and that it's ridiculous that if people don't think that. I mean, they're killing millions of people in the country. And also what I believe is that we should go to the Middle East and just make it 3 states. That's it. Take it out. It's 3 states. They all live for us. They're Americans. They all want to be Americans. And that's it. We own it. That's
all right. Thank you, Danny. You're a little off topic, but you're in favor of getting the boat. I thank you for that. Cheyenne, Wyoming. Bill. Hello, Bill. How are things in Wyoming?
How you doing? Hey, it's Phil. But anyway, 3 things. 1, I read The Looming Tower, great book. 2,
excellent.
Was a commie spy.
Yep.
3, I'm a former Sauk South guy, and I'm glad that we finally had the intestinal fortitude to do what was right. Keep up the fire and tell Hegseth to get rid of more generals and admirals.
All right. All right. Why is a Navy guy doing up in Cheyenne?
Actually, I'm an Army guy.
Oh, okay. I
come
heard
back
Brian.
to where freedom was.
Okay, just checking. That makes more sense. We had forts up in Wyoming. Thank you much, Bill. Thank you for your service. Mimi, Long Beach, California. What do you say, Mimi?
I say I'm in agreement 1,000% with Mr. Trump, Hugh. I'm almost 83 years old, and I'm so happy this happened. And he did the right thing, and I hope all the fishes in the ocean enjoyed the snacks.
Well, they die of the fentanyl if they snacked on that. Thank you, Mimi. Steve in Venice, California. What do you say, Steve?
Hey, Professor Hewitt. How are you?
Great.
So that boat had about $100 and some odd $1,000 worth of outboards on the back of it. My guess is they weren't out for a Sunday cruise.
Not
So
with
I
11
think,
guys on the boat and a bunch of bags on the deck. No, they weren't.
No, they weren't carrying mail.
No.
So attaboy to Mr. Trump, and keep up the good work.
Will do, Steve. Thank you. Last call, Jill, Florida. What do you say, Jill?
Yes, all right, in regards to Mr. Trump and trying to finish up with all these drugs. Well, of course, he needs to do that. I voted on him 3 times. I'll vote again as many times as possible. But let's not forget that I used to live in Miami before, and half of my street in Miami, which was in a very nice place in Coconut Grove, people went to Mexico to get drugs. So what Trump is doing, he's not going to finish the whole thing.
Well, it's a beginning. It's a first step. The longest journey begins with the first step. Hey, Jill, thank you. I want to thank Harley and Adam and Dwayne as well. Remind you that over at my YouTube channel, if you missed the Michael Oren or John Podhoretz or Selena Zito interview, they're all posted at Hugh Hewitt YouTube. Please like and subscribe. That helps spread the message far and wide, engages the algorithm, and I appreciate when you do that. Like and subscribe. I read your comments over at the Universe as well when you subtext to them to me, every one of them. Thank you so much for listening to The Hugh Hewitt Show.